We are live with one of my very favorite people. Let me get Instagram set up before we start chit-chatting. I
Okay.
can't stand it. So I think it was about 23 years ago that I met Bonnie. And there was just something about you, girl. And there's a stillness to you. There's a authenticity. That would be the word that I would use to describe you as authentic.
Thank you.
Tell us, you're welcome. And you've served as my yoga teacher. And I utilize your gifts like I utilize my therapist. I'll spot check. If I'm like, my cup is running over, I need to connect with Bonnie. And then I'll come to you and I'll experience your connection and I'll feel the connection. And then I take it and I run with it and do what I do. So that's Bonnie, you guys. With that being said, Bonnie, please introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? What do you do?
Well, I am Bonnie. I'm my spiritual name is Jyothi, and then Jody and I found that we share a spiritual name. So she's Jyothi and I'm Jyothi, which made an extra special connection. I am in Frenchtown, New Jersey right now, even though I know it looks a little bit like I'm underwater. Um, I'm not. I have been here in Frenchtown for 23 years, and I've been operating Yoga Loka. I've been teaching yoga since 1998. Been taking yoga since 1986. So I got a little skin in the game. I've been doing it for a while. Mother of two kids, mother of two businesses, and I love teaching people yoga. I love guiding people through the practice, both the physical practice, the spiritual practice. I love helping people navigate the roadmap of difficult emotions using yoga practices. I love telling people and showing people that yoga is not all about poses. It's not all done on a sticky mat. And sharing how I've integrated yoga into my life and how people can integrate yoga into their life. It shouldn't be separate. I know we say
Tell
it's a
us more.
practice.
How do you make it not separate?
Well, we
What
say
do
it's a
you do?
practice. If we realize life is a practice also, and we always check back in, kind of like you said, that check in, that spot check, like when things are going too much, you may check in with a practice. If we can do that, continue to check in with the practices, that's one way. You know, we question. Well, one way, as I tell people, don't ever trust your mind.
Well, what do we trust? If I can't trust my mind, what can I trust?
Yeah, so the mind is, as they say in the yoga world, the mind is a wonderful servant, but it's a terrible master. So in yoga, probably most people know we're uniting the body, mind, and the soul, or the body, mind, and the energy. But that unification is a very important one. So if we just go by what our mind says, that's what we shouldn't trust. Let's look at our body. What's our body telling us? What's the energy around it telling us? Can we notice that our breath is halting when our mind is saying, do this, eat this extra chocolate cupcake? What is our body feeling? Maybe our body's like, oh, 3 was enough, thank you. And, we can tell we have an upset stomach. Or energy is very chaotic and very dispersed. So if those 3 things, the check and balance system is telling us, do not eat that cupcake. Sorry, those 2 things are telling us, do not eat that cupcake, but the mind is saying, yeah, eat it. Then we should say, I don't believe you, mind. We want to integrate these 3 aspects of ourselves, and that we can trust. The mind is just going to go based on memory, based on habits, based on outside influences. So, but it's an interesting thing. I think if people just kind of live that statement for a day and a half, to really experience what it means to question what your mind tells you to do, then
Mm.
there'll be a better understanding.
And if I've never done that before,
Mm-hmm.
how do I know it's my mind and how do I know it's my body?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I will say that takes practice. So that goes back to yoga being a practice and life being a practice. We just have to keep questioning it. One of my dear teachers, Mukunda Stiles, would always say that asking really good questions is the way of balancing and honing your discernment. So asking yourself a really good question, like, how do I know it's my body? How do I know it's my energy? Should I trust my mind? And we may find if we just continuously ask ourselves really good questions, or if somebody asks us a really good question, we sit with it for a while, we'll find that the answer reveals itself. But even if the answer doesn't reveal itself, it's going to shift the energy around it.
I
Like
feel
instead
like
of
the
just taking that
I
third
feel like the
cupcake.
less I talk, I feel like if I can just shut up, I I'm so much more effective with what I'm doing, whether I'm adjusting people or I'm coaching or I'm in a sales call or I'm talking to my kid. If I can just be quiet and allow it to happen. But I also think that there are some people who are on the other side of that where they need to talk a little bit more, right? And um, you and I have played with that on the mat where getting centered in who I am and what my expression is in the world. And Bonnie, one of the things that Bonnie recently helped me with is discovering a mantra that I can carry with me, and I use it all the time, you guys. That if my cup runneth over, which happens at least 36 times a day, I can just plug into the mantra and um, be quiet. Remember that this is my monkey mind, and to find the peace that is my quiet, is my source. So, can you talk to us? Because we're talking to people who are in practice, PTs, OTs, NDs, chiros, yogis, nutritionists, right? All of it, who want more joy in their day to day experience. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can they start to use a concept like a mantra?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the starting?
Well, when you say they want more joy in their lives, and when you and I have talked, it's clear to me how happy you are adjusting people, that that's really your happy, happy, happy spot. And as you just shared, you're not necessarily thinking, it's not your monkey mind, it's your intuitive your intuition, or your channeling, or you've stepped into a greater place than the mind when you're doing that. And that is what brings us joy. When we find that place where we're not thinking, we're not second guessing ourselves, we're not judging ourselves, not questioning ourselves, and we're just, as some people say, in the flow of a greater wisdom, we're going to find joy. So the question, and this is a question you kind of asked in the beginning, how do we then take that into our lives when we don't have a patient on the table? Because you can't carry your patients with you wherever you go. And if the only place that we are accessing this flow and this divine intelligence is when we're with another person, which is a really great way to do it. Those of us, and for your listeners too, those all of us who have been fortunate enough in this life to find a career path that gives us such joy. I mean, whoa, that is such a blessing, right? And that taste of that joy when you're working with somebody, how do we take that into the rest of the world? So, as you said, a mantra comes from the Sanskrit. It's a Sanskrit word, and it comes from man, which means mind, and tra, which means to traverse, to take across. We get a lot of English words from Sanskrit. So a mantra takes you across the mind. So you may have a monkey mind and you're like, wow, I'm not comfortable here. I'm not happy here, but I want to be how I am when I'm adjusting somebody. What's making you not happy is your mind, second guessing, judging, questioning, remembering, dreading, anticipating, all of that stuff. So, how do we go from here to here, from one place of happy to the next place of peace? We use a mantra, like a bridge. So it goes over all of that monkey mindness and drops you back into the place where you may be when you're working with your clients, when you're working with your patient.
What if the people who you're talking to are miserable when they're working with their clients? How do they go from, what if the people who we're talking to are not experiencing any joy? What if
Mm,
they, that's why they're listening, because they want
yeah.
to find little, my answer to that is always, what did you love to do when you were a kid? Go do that thing.
Hmm.
I used to love to, I'm going to ask you that question next. I used to love to dig up dirt
Hmm.
and take a stick and make witch's brews in the dirt,
Mm,
like
hmm.
mud brews, and get my hands all dirty and play with the rocks. And then I would take one of the rocks that I found and I would go gift it to somebody. Not a whole lot has changed, right? So, what did you say? What did you love to do as a kid, Bonnie?
What did I love to do? Well, I loved to create things. I loved sewing. I loved making dollhouse furniture. I loved to just put things together. I loved to create scenes in the forest for dolls. I love to decorate. I love to make a curtain into a dress. That's the kind of things I like to do. I loved creating.
Do you
Um,
still do
and
that? You do still do that.
I do. I don't do it as much, but I do it. And when I do it, I have that same kind of experience of flow that when I'm working with a client or I'm leading a yoga class, because that's creating also, right? We're creating a space that more of an invisible space, but we are creating a space. But it's such a good question. What if people are not finding that joy? I think that I would ask them, what brought them there? What was the calling? How did they get called to whatever they were doing? Could have been a parent saying you're doing this, right? Or it could have been that's the school I got into. But there is going to be, I'm going to say the big buzzword, there's going to be a karmic reason they find themselves there. And I know this is something that you do so skillfully, and you've done it with me, just throwing out a word or a sentence or something like that to me over the 23 years that we've known each other, that has helped me refocus and shift where my energy is going in the business. And so that goes back again to asking good questions. Why are you doing this? Where are you
Mm-hmm.
leaking prana? Something else my teacher would say, where are you leaking prana? Is it, as you say in your book, is it from the administrative stuff? And if it is, get rid of the administrative stuff. If it's,
Mm-hmm.
I leak prana when my clients, I don't know, when they're late or they don't listen to me. That's a big chronic leak. I know for me too, if my clients aren't listening to me, it's like, oh, okay, there's a karmic thing there. There's a reason they're not listening to it. I have to ask myself that question. How am I invested in this? Where's my stuff wrapped up in this, right? And then I have to take care of myself. So as an example, um, my I think I've told you before, my parents were both physically disabled from birth, from their birth, not from my birth, from their birth. My birth made a whole different set of circumstances. But I realized at some point, not too long ago, so I'd already been doing this for a long time, that when my clients don't listen to me and I'm trying to get them better, that goes way back to when my parents, because of their physical disability, I would feel unsafe. And because how is mom and dad going to take care of me if they can't even get up off the floor when they've fallen? That's a pretty traumatic thing to see your mother falling down and not being able to get up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a feeling of unsafety. So one of the things I realized that if my clients are not doing what I ask them to do to make themselves more mobile, that's my stuff. That's me going, oh, I'm not safe. If my client doesn't get better, I'm not safe. Well, I got to clean that up. That can clearly
Right.
make me nervous and upset and angry at my client, and it can drain my prana. That's for me to clean up. So that was a question I asked myself at some point, like, why am I so invested in this person not listening to me? And that's what brought that up. And that has been such a helpful and empowering for me, and hopefully empowering for my clients, that they're following their flow of karma, which may be actually not regaining their
Right.
range of motion, right? Not getting better, but just coming and sitting to talk to me to complain about how they're not getting better.
That might
So
be part of the journey for them. That might, right.
exactly,
Sometimes I come to you and all I do is just sit on the mat and cry. And because that's what I need to do in that moment to get to my next
exactly.
step. So I want to rapid fire definitions to you. Can we do something really quick? Because I think this
Sure.
would be really helpful. Okay, so I'm going to throw words out, just a few, and
Hmm.
just give me like Give me a definition for each based on your experience on the planet of what that word means. Even just
Okay.
a few words to define each word I'm going to throw out, okay? Prana,
Life force and energy.
dharma,
What you are to do in this world, in this lifetime.
karma,
The set of circumstances that inspire you to act in a certain way or experience things in a certain way, whether you're acting or not acting.
that was a lot of words, Bonnie.
Uh, okay, redo.
um,
The stuff that
yeah,
makes you
we
do
do.
stuff.
The stuff that makes you do stuff. That's good. Jyothi.
Light.
Doshas.
Uh, Doshas, what explains the elements that make you do the stuff that you do.
Um, Lakshmaye.
Lakshmaye is a way of worshiping Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance.
I love it. It's so good. It's so good because we hear these words in songs.
Mm,
We have assumptions about what they mean.
hmm
And I think that it's kind of like what you were saying, where you have to look at your patient or your client not doing what you want them to be doing and knowing that that's your stuff, not theirs. That
hmm
takes time, right? It takes my first year in practice. My experience in the adjusting room is very different than I was just hanging out with my friend Liza, and we've both been in practice for a long, long time. And we were talking about how, as a newbie in practice, my understanding is so shallow, not in a
mm,
negative way, it's just really young. And
hmm
now, down the road where I am now, my experience is so different. So my relationship to these words, that's true for too. I was gifted the name Jyothi when I was 19 by my first yoga teacher. And the meaning of that has changed. So I used to be made fun of for the name. Every once in a while, my kid will throw a sarcastic, okay, Jyoti, right? Because I'm being a bitch or whatever. So it's changed its purpose in my experience so much. So
mm,
I love what you were saying about, like, this isn't about my client doesn't have to do the thing, the goal. And that's so true for being in private practice too. Like, as a chiropractor, I'm not in charge of their symptoms going away. That's not my
mm.
purpose as a chiropractor. um, so what do you say to somebody who's new with all of this? And, we're trying to solve the moment for practitioners when their hands are on somebody and the phone is ringing and the kids are running around and there's somebody complaining and somebody just farted and they don't feel good and they feel fat today. And that moment of, like, oh my God, I need to focus with and connect with this person. What do you say to that moment, Bonnie?
So you mean when there's all this distraction, so they're not able to focus in on their client? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because it's always there.
it's always there. I'm gonna take it back to asking a good question. What am I here for? What am I here to do? Who am I here to serve? What am I serving? Right. And I think what you said about I'm not here to manage my client's symptoms. I'm not in charge of their symptoms, I think is what you said. So wise. And I think, when you're saying how we age and we mature in our practice, we come to these recognitions um, that it starts to become service. And a mature aspect of service is I may give you something, but you may not want it. You may not take it right away.
Hmm.
But that's not the point. The point is that I'm serving, and that's what I'm here to do. So I guess, yeah, if we can focus in and say, what am I doing here? What can I let go of? And how can I serve the best way that I can serve? That may help to zone in a little bit to
You
help the
guys get how
practitioners.
grounded, like, the balance that you bring to the table, Bonnie, of being of this world, but also being connected to the spiritual world. I think that's what I love most about you. Like, I feel like I'm talking to my sister, but you don't have an air about you of like, I am in the spiritual groove, man, right? You're so like humble. And my husband's teacher is the same way. Like, you would never know if you were talking to him that he was of the ranking in Buddhism that he's
Mm.
in, right? I love your humility and how you don't wear what you know on your shirt, right? Like, um, I don't do that. I don't have that gift, and it's one of your humility is what I love about you. One
No,
of the
thank you.
things. So,
It's very sweet.
how does that happen? How do you do that?
Well, this is another thing that my teacher Mukunda said is that when you find somebody you want to be with, like you find somebody you really admire and you want to be like them, just sit at their feet, literally, metaphorically. Just spend as much time as you can, imitate them, do what they do, and eventually you will be doing what they do. And I
Hmm.
remember actually many years ago realizing that humility was a problem for me, and I got the Young Living humility oil, and I'm like putting it all over me. I don't think it worked so much, but I do remember once being in I was teaching something from Mukunda, one of his teachings, and I remember starting to stroke my beard because that's something that he would do.
Oh, that's
And I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm taking on his form. I'm doing what he does. And maybe that will give me the characteristics that I so admired in him when he was
it
teaching.
kind of flips the coin when, like, if somebody copies your idea and you're like, why are they taking my idea? it
Mm,
it makes you look at that differently, right?
right, right. Well, they say imitation is the highest form of praise, right? Yeah, and it just comes, right? Just like all that maturity you talked about from where you were when you first started practicing to where you are now. Hopefully it comes if we're paying
I would say,
attention.
if anything, I've become more immature. I go to my office and it's like, I sent you a picture a couple weeks ago of me adjusting, and I'm like, that's where I play. That's just where I'm silly, right? I mean, yes, I'm going deep, but there's just such a silliness to it because I'm doing this kind of stuff all day, right? So how do you keep that playful spirit about what you do? Do you do that?
Well,
Do you have a
what I
playful
want to
spirit?
say is like I certainly hope that maturity does not mean you can't be silly anymore because that would be a real shame.
That would be a
I
shame.
think I am a very silly person when I'm teaching. I mean, we're talking about all sorts of wacky things, and I will adapt, or I guess it's called code switch. If I'm talking with a client and they want to be silly, I'll be silly along with them. If they want to be really serious, I'll be serious up to a certain point. But I think it's essential. Just that question that you said, what do you like to do when you're a kid? That does keep us in this kind of beginner mind, doesn't it? Like when we were children, we're in this beginner mind and we'll stay in that beginner mind if we continue to behave like children in a good way. Just a silliness, a playfulness. I mean, being playful, children are so curious, right? And if we don't remain curious in our practice, whether we're working with clients or we're adapting, some kind of new form for people to fill out, or the curiosity of how can I do this better, how can I serve better, but also what happens if I push this button. What happens if I start jumping up and down and singing right now in the supermarket, what might happen? So I think holding on to our curiosity and our sense of humor is just so essential.
How do you heal yourself?
How do I heal myself?
How do you heal yourself? How do you
How
heal?
do I heal? I do a lot of practice, and when I a lot of spiritual practice, and when I invoke whatever deity I'm working with, like Lakshmi, for example, I ask her to heal me. I ask her to take out what I can't, or I say this is, and I'll invoke the feeling like this because I just actually went through a big healing crisis a couple of weeks ago, and I contacted my teacher, and she said, bring up those feelings that you're feeling, like how they physically feel in your body, not in here, don't trust that, but feel how you're feeling in your body and ask her to take it. Ask her to take it. So I check in with my teacher. I have a shaman healer out in the Pacific Northwest that I contact, and I talk with her a lot. Um, I get some body work, and I go into retreat. So I may be 1 or 2 days, uh, no telephones, no computers, no work, and just go into retreat.
Mm.
And I
How
tremor,
do you know when
tremor a lot.
you what?
I tremor,
Yeah,
the area, I shake
you
a
should.
lot. Yeah.
Tremoring is very similar, you guys, to if you've experienced network care. Many of the tonal approaches in chiropractic, like I know when I get adjusted with the BGI approach, my body goes into these waves. And it's not like I mean to do it. It's just that my
Yeah.
body just, it's like
It's a
it's
spontaneous.
integrating and processing. It's kind of like little dances in my muscles and then my system and then globally in my body. And tremoring, you tell me, what is tremoring?
Well, I think everything you said, but we do some exercises. We fatigue the body. We convince the body it's okay to discharge, and then we let the body move that in the way it needs to move. And for most people in the beginning, it just looks like shaking. But those waves that you talk about, I've seen and experienced that. Or sometimes I get up and I start dancing without an agenda. The body just starts to move, and especially because it is a trauma modality, a lot of times we see the body go into the same pattern that when a trauma happened. So somebody is reliving an accident or an abusive situation, and we see the body go into that same positioning. And what it does is it helps the nervous system to recognize that was then, but it's not now. And I'm safe to make that movement again. Or I'm safe
Mm,
to say no, or I'm safe to step away, or I'm safe to punch this person in the face who's not actually there. I've never gotten punched, but it helps
mm.
to reconcile the past with the present,
I've been
and it's a
punched.
discharge for the nervous system.
Being punched, I want to just double click on a couple of things you just said. Being punched is like, it's like falling in one spot on your body, and it's a seismic event. It's the impact. Um, all of the things that we're talking about, the concept I bring to chiropractic. And if you're a dentist or a physical therapist, my hope is whatever you're doing, you could be a banker. Know that any way that you introduce force to the body, it creates a story in the body, and the body is either able to process it or it's not able to process it. And if it's not able to process it, it's stored in tension patterns. And whether we are doing tremoring or chiropractic or running or CrossFit or yoga or whatever, chanting, all of these ways are ways for our body to unleash the patterns, right? That's all I do as a chiropractor, is help the body to unleash these patterns. So
Yeah.
I think it's so cool how no matter the modality, we all have that in common, right? Is that we're not fixing anything because we're not broken, we're brilliant. But we are helping the body to unwind what previously was stuck. So
Yeah,
um,
that's such a wonderful way of putting it. Thank
it's
you
the
for
only way I can understand it. Yeah, I
yeah.
used to say to one of my mentors, Val Panaccio, she taught me philosophy in chiropractic school, and we talk about subluxation in chiropractic and how some chiropractors believe, or understand it to be bone on nerve, and the body's doing something bad. And I just kept saying, well, if we're so brilliant and we're run by this innate, why would we do something so bad, right? Why would we express something so bad? And my mentor in chiropractic, Dr. Sue Brown, taught me a subluxation is truly just a story waiting to unwind. It helps us to move to the next level when it's released. So it's like potential waiting to happen, right?
Yeah.
Um, Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think of it. I think of these stories and these trap patterns, like eating. When you eat something, you have to break it down in your mouth first, and then the saliva comes, and it makes it into smaller pieces so it can be put in your stomach, and the stomach does what it does, and then the food goes and it passes into the small intestine, and more things are integrated, and whatever is not integrated, pooped out, right? And so these big blocks of energy that are in our body, it's like trying to put, a whole apple through your small intestine. You can't do it. You have to figure out how to make the pieces smaller, how to move it, how to soften it so that you can integrate it. And I think that's one of the things is that people just want to get rid of everything, but really the trick is to integrate it. We don't want to push anything away. We need to keep it. It's part of us. So we have to make it into small enough pieces so we can integrate it.
So well said. All right, I'm going to repeat back a few things that you said, and if there's anything else you want to say to the amazing people listening, please do. Extra special connection. Life is a practice also. Don't trust your mind. Mind is a wonderful servant, a terrible master. Yoga is a practice. Asking really good questions is a way of balancing and honing discernment. In the flow of a greater wisdom, will lead to joy. Where are you leaking prana? Imitation is the highest form of praise. Code switch. And what did you like to do when you were a kid? Anything else that you want to? Yeah.
Who said that great stuff?
You said that.
You brought it out in me.
That's
Thank
what
you
we
so
do.
much, Jody.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
This was fun. How can people connect with you? I know that it's streaming across the bottom. But tell us, if people want to learn from you or work with you, what do?
They go on the website and they send me a message. I'm best on email. Don't call me. I don't answer the phone.
It's funny.
But I also actually have a 15-minute free consultation that people can book on my website under private sessions. They can talk about whatever they want. If they want to know if they want to work with me, they can do that consultation, and then we can book a session if they want to go forward.
Anywhere in the world, you do all of this.
Anywhere in the world. Yeah.
You guys, please double click on Bonnie's offering. She's amazing. But don't like everybody go, because then I'm not going to have time on her schedule. Easy, y'all. Easy. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm going to end the stream. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.